We got an article a couple of days ago that highlighted just how bad Artūras Karnišovas was at his job. And because for years, Bulls fans wanted to blame ownership, we blamed injuries, we blamed bad luck, but really it all starts at the top because the process is what matters. And what Artūras Karnišovas did for this Bulls team, or didn't mess it up, is that he didn't just miss a move, he didn't just miss a few moves, he missed everything that's a key to actually building a franchise and a roster that matters. And that's why the offseason that Bryson Graham has had already matters so much more, even despite some of the doubts that Bulls fans now have about his pick at number 15 with Dailyn Swain. We're going to talk today about the difference between Artūras Karnišovas and Bryson Graham and the similarities that they both had in starting off with their tenure with this franchise, and why Bryson Graham is already head and shoulders above what Artūras Karnišovas did. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, hey, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We got a goal to get into 50,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026-27 season, and we're quite a ways away off that. We're about 16,000 roughly away from that. And I know it's a lofty goal, but about 42% of you guys that watch the channel every single day have not yet hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that button. In exchange for that, I'm giving you the best daily Chicago Bulls content 7 days a week. And we've been that for almost 5 years. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on top of that. But at this point, I feel like everybody's seen the article that's come out in regards to Artūras and why the Bulls were at such a tipping point as a franchise, right? Like hearing that he ignored his staffers, his scouters, in regards to everybody telling him draft Tyrese Haliburton instead of Patrick Williams. He drafted Patrick Williams, then compounded that when everybody realized, hey, Patrick Williams is not the guy that we think he's going to turn into. It's time to go ahead and move forward. Artūras was the guy that kept in the room, oh, he could turn into Kawhi. Let's not come off of that. And many will remember as well that this was one of the things that was quoted when Peter Patton was also fired, is that Peter Patton didn't agree with the direction that Artūras was going, and he wasn't enamored with Patrick Williams, which reportedly was part of the split as well that led to part of the reason why Peter Patton was fired as well for the Chicago Bulls. So it's a number of things in regards to that. And I think I want to start this off by saying I don't know AK as a person, and I do not want to paint him out as a bad person because I have no idea what he is in this. It's not about personal attacks or any of that, but it is because Artūras failed because he was the wrong person to lead this. And the criticism centers upon that when you look at it as his evaluation of talent, the communication style that not only he had with the fan base, but also apparently internally with his own staffers and employees as well that was supposed to be collaborative with him. The decision-making that he made insular decision-making, that it was all on him. One of the things that Bryson Graham has said since he started here is that if I'm the smartest person in the room, then we're bad off, right? Artūras seemed like he more so felt like he had to be the smartest person in every single room. And then the refusal to change course, to alter the course of that. And then you had a lack of direction on top of now already not being willing to move on top of that. The Bulls didn't just have a roster problem under Artūras Karnišovas. They had an organizational problem, and that started at the top with Artūras. And while Bryson Graham, I want to be clear, has not won anything at all. He has not won anything. But I do think just his early process already in being collaborative, giving everybody a voice in the room, being very transparent in regards to his thoughts and stuff, in regards to all of that. It's been there, right? The Bulls didn't just need different players. They needed a different way of making decisions and a different way of viewing things. And that's where Bryson Graham's going to be in here. And that leads me to our Acme's biggest failure. It was the tunnel vision that they had. They had tunnel vision, regardless if you want to blame that just on Artūras and Mark Eversley, whatever it is, the tunnel vision. And the Patrick Williams part is one of the biggest signs of tunnel vision. They locked into Patrick Williams early on into that draft process. They draft him despite what apparently everybody in the scouting room told him. And this is the thing that you will see is the downfall of a lot of people in positions of power, not just even with sports, is that when you don't listen to the voices of the people who are supposed to be the experts in the room that you're supposed to be collaborating with, that's when you start messing with stuff. So, the issue isn't just about drafting Patrick Williams over Tyrese Halliburton. That's definitely something that stands out there, but it's the other draft misses. Going with Dalen Terry over Walker Kessler, a huge miss in that regard. Now, it was some hits over that time. Miles Buzelis looks like he's going to be a really good hit. Ayo Dosunmu was a hit that you didn't really capitalize on. You ended up moving. Now he's on a winning team, right? But it's that part of it as well. And then continuing to operate under the original vision, even though you had all the signs in the world that original vision was not working anymore. You gave Patrick Williams a 5-year, $90 million deal, and it showed right there the danger of the emotional investment over player evaluation that Artūras Karnišovas had. He wanted to be so right in regards to this Patrick Williams thing that he doubled down on it and compounded the issue by giving him a 5-year, $90 million deal when he was a restricted free agent. Yet years later, you played hardball with Josh Giddey. You could have gotten Patrick Williams for much less than that. Nobody on the open market would have paid Patrick Williams 5 years, $90 million. You wouldn't have got it. You probably could have got Patrick Williams, honestly, market value for probably $9 or $10 million. That's probably what you could have got for him at that point in time. And I think that good front offices, the difference in that is that good front offices update their opinions when the data changes, when the situation changes, when you have evidence to the contrary of what you believe to be true. And that's where AK failed at. Too often now, people feel like they'll say, oh, well, this wasn't your take then. It's like, yeah, dumbass, no duh. Things have changed. The situation has changed. Those type of things have changed. It's okay to change your opinion and your direction when you recognize something's not wrong. The worst thing that you can do is stick to an opinion, stick to a take, or stick to a direction just because it was your original thought process, even though you now have a mounting of evidence that shows it's not going to work in regards to that. So the mistake that the Bulls made wasn't just picking Patrick Williams. It was continuing to build like that pick had not been proven to be the wrong pick. And that's the thing that really stands out in regards to that. You saw that pick was not it, and you continue to go for it anyway, right? And then let's go back to the next thing. The Bulls did not properly even use the own talent they had there. I talked about it before. The scouts, right, that told you draft Tyrese Halliburton. On top of that, the analytics department that you built, the player development department that you built. And what we've heard, like Artūras built a player development department, which at that time, a lot of people gave credit to. The Bulls were like the fourth franchise in the NBA to have a dedicated player development department in the way that they built it. Well, I think like 5 or 6, to be honest with you, right? And so in that, though, you didn't listen to those voices. And one of those that got mitigated was Peter Patton. Now, you got his understudy in Austin Dufault, who, by all accounts, is really good as well. But I think when you look at it, a healthy front office, a good front office, listens to their scouts, they listen to their analytics, they listen to their cap experts, and they listen to the developmental staff as well as the coaches and what the coaches are seeing on the floor in practice each and every day in regards to that. The previous regime, Artūras Karnišovas' regime, made some of the larger meetings feel like they were more performative, right? That's what came out in that article as well, is that it was a performative piece. Like you sat down and he listened to people and made it seem like he was listening to their opinions, their thoughts, all that type of stuff, but then turned around and went right back to doing whatever the fuck he wanted to do anyway, right? And so hearing in this article that employees felt like they had a fake steering wheel, when you talk about building a culture, that's a brutal evaluation in regards to that. Like, how can you build a culture when the people that are supposed to be advising you, the people that are supposed to be experts in their field, they feel like, hey, we got handed an unplugged controller like you used to do with a little sibling. That's bad, right? Some staff also reportedly said that they didn't even see the draft board, meaning how are you supposed to scout? How are you supposed to help do your job? How are you supposed to help build a team when your president of basketball operations won't even let you see the draft board? What? So that means that the Bulls were paying for information that they weren't even using. Like, take that for a second. Now, again, the staff was getting paid, so the staff was getting paid, but you have this whole scouting department, this whole analytics department that you are paying outright, and then you're not even listening to them, so they were getting paid not even to do their job. And no wonder, when we heard when Reinsdorf came in and was like, "Hey, listen, this ain't working." When Michael Reinsdorf came in, it was like I had to recognize some things in regards to that, because I'm sure hearing from the staff and hearing that, like as an owner who's paying out of your pocket for that got to drive you absolutely crazy, right? And so now what we've heard from Bryson Graham and this early approach so far, only through one offseason, is that it's totally different because he's actually gathering information and input from the scouts, from the coaches, from the analytics department before ultimately making these decisions, right? You cannot build a modern NBA team and a successful NBA operation if the people that you hired to do their jobs believe that their work does not matter at all. And that's what the Bulls had to face under Artūras in that part. And then the pure communication, right? We all saw it. The pure communication to fans, the pure communication to staff, right? What one staff member said in regards to this, that we learned the details of moves through public reports. They were learning shit through Shams like we are learning shit through Shams. And said that, even this saying that some knew that the Bulls were interested in DeMar DeRozan, but did not know the full cost. And when you look at the difference in that, for example, like you see now with Bryson Graham and even bringing in Steven Mervis, who's supposed to be a cap genius and expert, I guarantee you he was consulted in the contracts that the Bulls signed people to and those type of things. This isn't about people having hurt feelings because their thoughts and ideas weren't listened to. This is about staff that doesn't know the plan, and then they cannot execute and help you do that plan if you're not sharing that plan with you. On top of that, they have no faith in what you're doing. Development, scouting, coaching, roster building. Everything suffers when you have people that don't know the plan and then don't even believe in it because they don't believe in you because their leadership is ass. Like, it's hard to believe in that, right? A team, a true team, and I don't mean the team on the court. I mean the team in the front office, a team that's a franchise cannot build an identity when people who are supposed to be building it don't even know the identity that you're trying to build towards, right? That's a crazy thing in regards to that. And I think that you have to understand just how difficult that is in a front office. Everything has to be lock and step in a front office that's really getting that. And then let's get to the ultimate thing that was a knock on AK. It's the middle. The middle was the real legacy that AK left. That's the highest that we got. The Bulls were never a contender. We refused to position ourselves to even draft elite talent because we never were willing to take a step back until it was too late. Shout out to us getting Caleb Wilson. And then the team protected the idea of being competitive without actually trying to build something competitive and being willing to do it. One of the biggest things and knocks that I gave AK during his tenure here is I was like, one thing that he's afraid to do, that AK is afraid and terrified to do, is take a momentary step back to take the longer term step forward. And sometimes that means you got to get rid of some people, right? And do that. The Bulls never really had a true win now plan. They had hope, right? And they stumbled into some stuff. They never really wanted to go into a full rebuild. Hell, they didn't even want to use the term rebuild, right? And so that was a refusal to actually choose a direction, and that's a part of it. The ultimate big downside of the Artūras Karnišovas era is not about building greatness or trying to be competitive. It was about trying to project a competitiveness or a respectability that you never earned through your actions or through how you handled the people that you were supposed to be in charge of. That's it. And I do think this. One of Bryson Graham's first big win is the honesty and the transparency. The fact that he was not afraid to acknowledge we're at the ground floor and we're rebuilding. He immediately used language that the old regime avoided, and that was the rebuild language. That is an important part of all this. And I think it matters because you cannot have alignment without being honest with yourself, with the people that work for you, and with your fan base and where you are. And that's what Bryson Graham has brought to this team. He's been very honest in where this team is and the fact that they're going to build organically. They're going to take some time, those type of things. Fans can understand a timeline when they see the vision and the execution to get there and you're being transparent. Coaches can understand the importance of development and the priorities when you actually give them young talent that's worth developing. Players understand their roles as the team changes and the direction of the team takes new shape and form. And a front office can plan and judge moves based on an actual rebuild and instead of trying to survive and make the play-in just so you can, again, project competitiveness. That's the difference that happens here, right? And that doesn't mean that players tank. It doesn't mean that coaches tank. It means that the franchise knows exactly where it stands and it's honest about that. Now, AK did that late. Part of the reason we were in position to draft Caleb Wilson is because of the decision that AK made at the trade deadline to send everybody off. And I want to give him knowledge for that. But Bryson Graham understands that the first step to fixing the Bulls was admitting where we actually are, and that helps calm down a fan base and helps give you a little bit of grace in regards to that one. Then also, Bryson Graham's draft process already feels differently. He recognizes that collaboration is not a weakness. That's how you actually show leadership, is by empowering the people that are around you. Y'all know, I run Chi-Town Sports Central. I do that. And it would be very easy for me to be on every single show. but I trust Kev to do White Sox Central. I trust Mike to do Chicago Cubs Central. I trust Steve-O and C-Dub to operate a big part of Chicago Sky Central, where I come in and I do the post-game shows. I do that, right? Because you have to trust your teammates and you have to put them in positions to be able to either succeed or fail, and then have an honest conversation about where you are so that you can get better as a team and as a unit. That's it. Bear Central would not be as strong as what it is if I didn't realize very early on, let me trust Bobby, let me trust C-Dub, and sometimes let me get the fuck out the way and let those brothers cook. That's it, right? And so when you look at this, when Bryson Graham reportedly gathered input from multiple departments after their in-person workouts with scouts, that means that they talked about the player development staff. They talked about the people in basketball operations. They talked with their scouts. They talked with their analytics department. And they also talked with the staff who watched the workouts. And then they got a full total idea of what they wanted to do. And he was transparent with that. And of course, Bryson Graham still makes the final call, but he wants all the information and all the perspectives. And then he communicates with people on what needs to be done and what the direction that he's going, so that way everybody can operate one band, one sound. The mindset is not about being the smartest person in the room. And I love that mindset about Bryson Graham. It's about, hey, let's collect all this information, and then, yeah, I'm going to make the final decision, but I'm making that based on informed opinions by the people that I hired to do their damn job. And that is a cultural shift for the Chicago Bulls when you're able to do that. Bryson Graham doesn't have to make every decision by committee, but the fact that every department is helping to paint that full picture, that's how you get people owning it in regards to it, right? And then I also think when you look at it, the draft, it shows the roster logic in regards to that. I know people are out on Dailyn Swain right now. He's going to have to prove that to get those guys back in. But with Caleb Wilson, you drafted the guy that has the high upside and can be a foundational forward and player for your team. Could have been very easy. Like, I have no doubt that Artūras, had he been running this draft, would have probably seriously taken what some Bulls fans thought was the next Derrick Rose and drafted Darius Acuff. And now you have a guy in Caleb Wilson that has so much more upside than that, because he is actually a two-way player that also is proven he got some scoring prowess with him. Dailyn Swain at number 15 gives them a versatile developmental piece that may be a little bit further back than people realize, but in regards to that, it communicates the values that he looks for. Length, athleticism, defensive potential, versatility, and those guys all care about winning, right? And I think when you look at Caleb Wilson's summer league as well, like, the explosion also proves that, hey, this dude can absolutely potentially become a star, right? And that goes to another part of it, the difference between what happened at number 4 for Bryson Graham and what happened at number 4 for Artūras Karnišovas. Remember, I talked about both these front offices are starting from a very interesting standpoint. They both are inheriting pieces of the roster that aren't going anywhere anytime soon. On top of that, they started off with the 4th overall pick. On top of that, they drafted players that people have talked about being raw. And people who, like, well, you look at Caleb Wilson's his draft report, he's the same as P. Will. And it's like the difference is in the details, but you got to go into the details in regards to that. But you're seeing that, right? Just because things seem similar on paper, it's the different route that you're going about it with. And that's a big thing. I think even when you look at the coaching search, Bryson Graham ran an actual extensive coaching search, so extensive that some people got tired of how long it took. Whereas AK, he didn't really run it. Like, he interviewed some people, make no mistake about it, but it wasn't nearly as extensive, right? So you got the young players in here. You got the coach. Then another thing that's contrary to what Artūras did, Artūras brought in veterans that block development. Now, P. Will ended up not being that good, so you weren't really blocking his development, but at the same time, bringing in Norman Powell, Nic Claxton, and re-signing Zach Collins is a lot different than bringing in DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, keeping Zach LaVine, all those type of things. You brought players in now that actually add support for the developing young players on this team, and that stands out, right? Then on top of that, the contracts matter as well. You gave DeMar DeRozan, you paid him so much money that, yeah, he had to be part of your future. And reportedly, had they been able to move off of Zach LaVine a little bit earlier, they would have given DeMar DeRozan another $40 million contract. You look at now what they did. Norman Powell, a 1+1, a 2-year deal where he's even coming in to be more complimentary than what DeMar DeRozan ever was supposed to be. You look at the Nic Claxton trade. You 2 years on that deal. Zach Collins, a 1+1 on that deal as well. The Bulls they brought in veterans that help us play better now, support the young guys, but also they did not ruin their timeline. Then you also brought in a head coach in Tiago Splitter that also is going to develop as a head coach, and he also fits your timeline. For the first time in years for the Chicago Bulls, they have an executive, a coach, and a roster that all seem to be moving on the same timeline with the same direction and all of that. Does Bryson Graham deserve some criticism for the second round? Yeah, sure. Like, absolutely. And if it works out that some people that were drafted after number 38 ends up being stars, definitely he needs to be judged by that. Selling pick number 56, I'm not really hard on that because it's pick number 56. Like, you're very rarely going to get talent at that level. But people that said, why didn't you combine both of those to try to move up to the first pick in the second round? I get that as well. I'm not here to paint that Bryson Graham's offseason so far should be viewed as perfect, but the accountability already that if that moves ends up failing, I already trust Bryson Graham to understand that more. And then also, guess what? Even if Dailyn Swain doesn't work out, I trust Bryson Graham not to double down and compound that by giving him a $90 million deal. The biggest difference with this is that it's one organization, one plan, and one timeline for the Chicago Bulls team. And it actually feels like the staff members have already reported, according to the article, a very different vibe with that team. You know, groups involved in meetings, bring so many people into the meetings that everybody feels like, at least for this first offseason, that they have a say and they're going to understand the plan of where we're going as a team. People understanding the vision, already saying that there's a much more clear vision for this team. The draft, the free agency, the coaching decisions, all filtering across multiple departments and making sense when you look at all of them. No, nothing Bryson Graham has done yet guarantees success, but it does feel like it's a different in what we're doing in regards to that. They're not gonna repeat the people mistake. They're not gonna waste assets. Those are the type of things you want to see and continue for this team. And as long as that happens, then there's gonna be there. The accountability part of it, that's what really matters. That's what really stands out in regards to it, is that you're seeing that accountability matters. 6 years ago, when AK and Eversley took over, they had a new executive. They had a respected head coaching hire in Billy Donovan. They had lottery luck. They got the number 4 pick. And then they talked about promises of modernizing the direction of the team. That era failed because they didn't see that vision through. You look at these things now for Bryson Graham, many of the same assets, many of the same things, but overall, you're just in a much better place, and it's much more aligned as a franchise and aligned as a team. And I think that's what the biggest difference between Artūras Karnišovas and Bryson Graham is. Not that Bryson has made every move correct to where you can't question it. He's not done that. But the difference is that Bryson Graham appears to understand that running a franchise is bigger than just choosing players. It's about creating a process. It's about collaborating with the people that you hire. It's about telling a coach what the timeline is and getting in players that fit that timeline, about all those things moving lock and step. That's how you build a culture. That's how you build a winning franchise. And let's hope that's where the Chicago Bulls are actually finally heading. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I know, kind of a ranty episode. I just wanted to spend some time, a day or so. I know everybody was going to jump on the article right away, but it frustrated me. And when I get frustrated, I go on a little bit of a rant. So I apologize that it was not more of a basketball analytics episode, but you know, it is what it is when it comes down to it. And we'll see how that continues to develop for this team. Let me know your thoughts down below on how you feel about it. Make sure you guys sound off in that comment section. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation